hello, everybody. This looks like it's going to be a solo show. Last week was a solo show as I was off, visiting family / quarantining, just because I had planned to visit family for my birthday, and they're like, yeah, we haven't gone out in 2 weeks, and you're not going out in 2 weeks, and then you're not going to do anything after. No, okay, come visit. So I finally visited some family for the first time in quite some time, and that was fun. So Birdman did that. Birdman's been out. He's had a pretty bad stomach bug that he said has been bothering him pretty much the whole week. And if you've followed him on social media, if he stays dehydrated or isn't getting better soon, he's actually going to go to the hospital, which he's avoided because he doesn't want to have to go through more quarantining or more tests or COVID risks or anything. So he's been trying to just recover. I think he's a bit on the mend now, but he was not feeling up to doing a show, and he said, hey, do you think you can take it solo this week? And I said, yeah, I can do that. Do I want to take it solo? I was looking forward to talking to you, but you're not feeling well, so you should just relax and not die. And he said, oh, by the way, can you also do the next week? So I think I'm doing the Valentine's Day show. Maybe I'll do something special for it. If not, I'm not sure. And then he said I might be doing a solo show after that if he's got prior commitments. So I'm like, dude, I'll do it, no problem, but people are going to miss us, our banter. I'm going to miss you, man. What's going on? So at least the next 2 weeks, I believe it's going to be just us. So these are going to be quicker shows because we won't have the ability to really run off each other and banter. So we're going to pick, I think, 3 news stories and 3 weird news for each week. This week in particular, because Birdman was out sick, the 3 reviews for this show are all going to be provided by me. So it's basically going to be me till you hear like the outro with somebody else's voice maybe. And for the reviews this week, we're going to have, let's see here, because we've got a few that I've been working on. We've got Ys 9. We've got the Nioh collection on PS5 and Werewolf, I think, on PS5. Those will be the 3 we include here. So I guess, oh man, it's been a bit since I've actually done one of these solos. So I guess next thing is we're going to go to my first review, and then we'll head into the news. So up first is Ys 9 Monstrum Nox.
Basically using geeks.
Leave me alone, geek boy.
Holy shit, you geeks are badass.
Ys 9 Monstrum Nox is the latest in the long-running franchise from Falcom that has really started to see a renaissance in the West with the remakes that had come out and been published on pretty much every platform in the last 3 or 4 years, and especially with Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana, that one sort of broke it a bit out of the niche market into more wide appeal to the general action RPG gamer, and Ys 9 takes that further by giving you pretty much the largest map and open area. It's not an open world, but the city itself in the game is much larger than pretty much anything else they've done in the past. The controls are pretty standard if you're used to playing the last few releases. They've added features where you can use your monstrum powers to teleport across the screen or hit ledges. Similar things that you would have seen in like Final Fantasy 15 or in some of the more recent games that are like the Dynasty Warriors style, where you can hit ledges and use it as like staging points to do things. It adds a little bit more to the platforming traversal of the game, which is pretty cool. You play Adol, of course. This game is fully voice acted in English, which is a good sign, because a lot of these games they don't go that route, and there's a fair amount of talking in here, so it's worth it. And it's got the classic early 2000s style of voice acting, which I like. This whole franchise really feels like a PS2 game. Like even when it's coming out on PlayStation 5 and 4, there was some question of whether or not this would, how this would play or look better necessarily on a PlayStation 5, which is the platform I'm playing it on. And it loads like almost instantaneous. It appears to be 60 frames per second, 4K, no stuttering. It's amazingly small. We're talking like 9 under 10 gigabytes, which is pretty amazing for a modern game for the size of the game that it is. There's multiple difficulty settings, and they are all tuned very well. If you put it down to easy, it's a cakewalk, and you can just sort of experience the game and the story. If you put it to normal, it has a decent enough challenge. And then, of course, there's harder difficulties. Sound-wise, it's the same sort of Falcom background, audio that it's just standard, good quality music and production. This isn't going to blow you away as a AAA, ridiculous graphical fest. It is graphically on par with the previous entry in the series, while maybe improving a little bit. I believe the game feels smaller as far as like install size. I think they've optimized that engine a fair bit. The enemy variety is nice. The controls are tight and concise. The story is interesting and takes it in a slightly different direction than past games. There's some tongue-in-cheek jokes for fans of the series, which is great. As well as if you have, I think it's Memories of Celceta installed with either clear data or data saved on your system, as well as Ease 8 Lacrimonia of Dana, you get extra items when you start the game that can give you a bit of a boost to start as sort of a bonus. So it will do an individual check for each of those games. You don't have to have both. You can have one or the other or both, and it will give you some extra stuff, which is pretty neat. So if you played it in the past, make sure you download it from your cloud saved, or if you've got it on your local drive, keep it there, and it will do a check for that. So that's always fun when they include that. As far as if it's going to be something that converts brand new fans over, it might. It seems to be a concise enough story. It's not bogged down too much with, so much of the lore or so many of the past stories of the games that you can't, be a new player and get enthralled in the world. There's a lot of other RPGs out right now on multiple systems, but as far as one that just loads fast, and just overall is as appealing to play and easy to pick up and play and save and just go for a couple hours at a time, there's not much else right now that you can pick up that's new that you can play on your PlayStation 5. It isn't a native PS5 game, but it does have patches and stuff to improve performance on the system, which is pretty neat. So I would say it's worth checking out, especially if you can get your hands on one of the physical editions, because you get like a soundtrack and some other cool stuff with it. But if not, digitally, it's not going to wreck your bandwidth at about 9 gigs to download, which is a welcome change from the 100+ gig games that we're getting nowadays.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek
News. It's time for the news. So we have 3 stories for you this week. These were going to be fun to talk about together, but I'll briefly go over them and give you my thoughts as well. So everybody knows that GameStop has had the whole ridiculousness happen lately with the stock manipulation. Well, it's not illegal, but the whole Reddit stock craze happening. And it says here, GameStop investors, this is brought to us by Nintendo Life. GameStop investors are paying it forward by donating Nintendo Switches to children hospitals. So, we're not going to get into all the craziness, and we're not as versed in how the stock market works, and stocks also work different in different countries, so yada, yada, yada. But here, so Robin Hood riding through the hospital. Robin Hood with his band of Nintendo Switches. Feared by the hedge fund investors, loved by sick children. Robin Hood. It might not be the most traditional of Robin Hood gestures, but it's certainly something you wouldn't see actual Wall Street investors doing because they're greedy pricks. In a lovely twist on the GameStop story that's taking the internet by storm, Reddit user is paying it forward. The good fortune of Wall Street Bets subreddit. The subreddit that started it all by donating 6 Nintendo Switches, games, and accessories to Children's Minnesota Hospital, which is pretty sweet. For those of you who somehow missed out on the biggest story of last week, GameStop stocks was targeted by an investing subreddit after they discovered that billionaire hedge fund managers were attempting to short GameStop stocks to make a profit off the failing company. The subreddit r/Wall Street Bets decided to attempt to make these billionaires lose money by pumping their life savings into GameStop, and they succeeded. As of today, the subreddit investors are still holding, refusing to sell as a matter of principle, even though it could lose them millions of dollars. The generous donations is far from the first time GameStop windfall has benefited Wall Street Bets members, and in turn they could have passed the benefits to others. Another investor wishing to remain anonymous donated 10 Nintendo Switches to Children's Hospital in Texas, and other investors have been able to pay off medical debts to help their families. The subreddit is putting out a call for fellow investors to stay strong with messages of, it looks like a diamond and something else, to represent their cause, to screw over the billionaires and help the needy. We're not Wall Street, says Lazy Dragonfruit 727 in the comments. We know what it's like to suffer and how to give back. That's the difference between us and them. Hopefully, the hospital will be able to use the Switches. We've covered the Starlight consoles in the past, but there are special versions of the Switch deemed hospital safe. Either way, this is still a generous use of the profits that will no doubt benefit the kids in the hospital. I'm assuming it has to do with wireless frequencies and certain things. If they can't use them, they can always auction them off or raffle them off as a fundraiser for the hospital itself. So that'll be good. See, so some good's coming of this. You get people in Wall Street, they're panicking or they're calling people names because they've never had to deal with people that are actually poor, that are now forcing them to be poor. So it's very interesting. I would never have enough money to even invest 1 or 2 stocks in there. I just don't have the disposable income like that when you're on disability. That being said, I get a special joy watching all of this unfold, and it's interesting to see it happen. It's obviously not going to last forever. There's going to be ramifications from it, but if anything, it's brought eyes to it, and that's something that's good. We'll probably see more stories like this in the next week or so, and then Birdman and I can hopefully discuss it at some point, because we're going to want to see where this all ends. Moving on to our next story, Google Stadia shuts down its internal studios, changing business focus. This was all over the news. One thing we should get out of the way is a lot of people calling this the end of Stadia. It's not. It's the end of them as a driving force trying to create a true alternative and new brand to rival the PlayStation hardware or PlayStation branding or the Microsoft Xbox branding or the Nintendo branding. They shut down their studios after not really showing anything. They've invested millions and millions of dollars, probably realized that it was going to take another 3 to 5 years to get those AAA titles developed, and at that point their service wouldn't have been viable in the form it's in. So Kotaku had a big article on this. The gist of it is they're shutting down. I'm not going to read all of it because it's fairly long and it's pretty simple. But what's going to end up happening here is they're shifting their focus to being the third-party platform. If they're smart, they'll make it more like a Netflix and have it so that your paid subscription, you can purchase individual games and play them as is, but the paid subscription would give you access to a library of games to play on the regular, and not they're doing a few games at a time already like that, but more, expand it to be more like a Netflix, and that would do them quite well. and then maybe sign a few exclusivity deals for certain special editions of games, get a few games on there that are already multiplayer, or get, sign a deal, get Call of Duty on there and say, okay, now we have 300 people per map. Do something insane that they can't do on other platforms. That's the only way they're really going to get people to really come over to it. I don't see this as the death nail on them because they've signed a deal with Nintendo. All of those Nintendo games that are coming out that say cloud only, like Hitman and some of the others, and Control, they're using Google Stadia. So they've already got a deal with Nintendo on the line for AAA games to be streamed to them. So there's that, and they're looking to market it out to other people. What that means is Activision, Blizzard, Take-Two maybe, they may want to license some of the cloud technology. So where they're going to compete here is they're going to compete with the Microsoft Azure platform in the background on the high level of things. And then on the medium level, they'll maybe do like a Netflix of games thing, which it's not too little too late, but they're going to have to really show initiative in the next 6 months to a year to show how that goes, or the consumer-facing division will probably close down. I don't think the technology will close because they're going to want to get those businesses signed up like Nintendo. That's a big deal. So having, if you have Nintendo, what you can do is release a cartridge or a cart that has, let's say, enough of the game assets to launch the game. So maybe 4 or 8 gigabytes. Some of the have all of the basic computational stuff run on the Switch and output to your TV, and then you have the heavy duty textures and particle effects and everything happen on the back end. And that's the only way you're going to get the Switch, or even whatever the Switch successor is, to really run the games that are running on the next-gen consoles and PCs now. So without it looking like complete ass. So that's going to really be the only way to do this, I think. They're saving money this way. The only thing they could do, in my mind, if they're shutting down their internal studios, the only thing that they could do if they really wanted AAA titles is to buy Warner Games or Take-Two. Buy one of them. Buy Rockstar, slap down $5 billion, something stupid, crazy. And if you lock down, if they said, oh, by the way, if they made all the money off console versions of Rockstar games from now into perpetuity, and then they also said, oh, by the way, for the PC version, there's no PC version, you have to get it on Stadia, but the open world is so much bigger and more expansive, they'd make gangbusters. Or if they really wanted to, if they said, hey, we're going to buy Activision, and they're going to drop like an insane amount of money down. That's the only way they could really make Stadia viable. If they're like, oh, World of Warcraft, yeah, it runs through Stadia servers only. That's the only way they're going to do it if they wanted to stay in the game as far as having their own gaming division directly. But they'd have to be insane to do that or willing to spend the money. So that pretty much ends it there. We'll keep an eye on it as it goes, because I've been somebody who, I'm not like a fanboy. I'm saying it's worked for me because of my internet speed. It was really the only way I was able to properly play Cyberpunk. It just worked. There's been a few titles that worked with some of the games that took advantage of the technology were great, but there just hadn't been enough, support for it. So I'm happy with the experience I had with it, but if it goes away, it goes away. And now for our final story. This is brought to us by comicbook.com. Birdman got the story. Xbox wants Elon Musk to make a Halo Warthog with Tesla. Okay. Elon Musk revealed only a few days back that he's a pretty big fan of Halo series. The well-known businessman said that it's the only game he's ever spurned his PC to play on a console. Now, in the wake of this information, it looks like the powers that be over at Xbox are looking to capitalize on it. In a recent message on Twitter from Aaron Greenberg, the general manager of marketing at Xbox, it was said that Musk needs to look to make some sort of Halo collaboration transpire with Tesla, the car company that Musk runs. Musk himself didn't end up replying to the tweet, but fans of the replies were definitely keen on the idea. Greenberg himself also asserted via hashtags that the crossover could somehow involve Tesla's Cybertruck and the Warthog from Halo. In a subsequent tweet, Greenberg made it clear that nothing between Xbox and Tesla is currently in the works, but he encouraged fans to make their voices heard in the hope that something could change. So if you like the idea, speak up, and maybe something will happen in the future. Could happen. Who knows? Greenberg said in a follow-up message. As for what a collaboration between Halo and Tesla would even look like, well, it's hard to say. An iteration of the Cybertruck that is meant to resemble the Warthog from Halo makes a lot of sense on paper, but it's also something I'm not certain would work in reality. Then again, both Cybertruck and Warthog do look pretty similar, so maybe this would be easier to make happen than you would think, even if this did somehow end up coming to fruition, though it's surely not something that would ever be produced for the masses. Regardless of the specifics, would you like to see Halo and Tesla somehow collaborate if Musk decides that he likes the idea? Let me know what you think, blah, 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 from the writer at Comic Book. Interesting idea, horrible in practice. I'd like to see the Cybertruck actually come into existence and actually work at first. As cool as that sounds, that might bring us closer to our dystopian Mad Max future that I don't know if I want. Yeah, so that's going to do it for our news this week. Pretty interesting stuff. We're going to take a quick break here, go into my review of the Nioh collection on PlayStation 5, and then we'll be back with the weird news. And I'm not entirely sure. I didn't pick any of the stories this week. Birdman did, so let's see what he picked for me.
This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager, and that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers.
I'm here with just a quick overview of the Nioh collection on PlayStation 5. A review copy was provided by Sony Computer Entertainment, and I just wanted to sort of preface this by saying we've played both games actually for review on the PlayStation 4. And now what we're doing is sort of going back and seeing the PlayStation 5 upgrade that just came out that you can purchase as a collection together or get them individually, and what's included and so on and so forth with it. So what you have is both games with all the add-ons, all their expansions. They're including a 4K remasters, full 60 FPS, even 120 FPS settings. In those cases, you'll have to have compatible hardware and so on, yada yada. So there is a save data transfer feature which is included with their day one patch. So make sure you have that installed if you've got a previous save file of that. Now, interestingly enough, the game played fine when I had the PlayStation 4 Pro, especially Nioh 2, played well enough on there as is. What you end up getting here is just a massive improvement on loading times, better textures overall, cleaner graphics, and just buttery smooth frame rate that never drops. It's still as fun and challenging as before, only now it just feels less sluggish, and it's just more crisp. I did not have a 120 FPS compatible display to test out that mode, but I can only determine based on my play on the 60 FPS mode that it would be buttery smooth. That is, I guess, the power of moving to this next generation, and it's cool to see some games like this where they were released fairly late in the cycle of the last generation, included with getting it like full remasters and upgrades to just take advantage of the hardware, and especially when they include this is both games now, so they've gone back and remastered the original, and you get a pretty big bang for your buck here in that you're getting 2 full games with tons of DLC. It's not going to be for everybody in that they can be difficult games. That being said, they're quite rewarding, and I found myself compelled to go back and play more and more as I was going. It's just taking games that were already well done and just bringing them just a little over the top to make them even better. So I would say check it out if you've got a PlayStation 5. It's going to be worth it, especially to tie you over till some more brand new next-gen exclusive titles come out. So it's cool to see that this is available. And check it out on the PlayStation Store. I don't think you're going to be disappointed.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
All right, it's time for the weird news. So we have 3 stories today picked out by Birdman himself, and let's take a look here. I think they're gonna run the gamut. Actually, we only have 2 stories because he made a mistake and put the Cyberpunk truck in both news and weird news. So 2 stories it is. Maybe I'll see if I can find a third one at the end of this on my own. But first up, this is brought to us by IGN.com. Scientists have taught spinach to send emails when they detect landmines. What? Scientists have managed to engineer spinach plants to send emails when they detect explosive materials, and social media is delighted. Euronews picked up its trowel and dug through a Nature journal entry to provide details of the nanotechnology that has been used to transform wild-type plants such as spinach into infrared communication platforms capable of sending information to computers and smartphones through a process of sensor detection and wireless relay. MIT experimented with a niche field of science known as plant nanobiotics and discovered that, per the report, spinach root can detect the presence of nitroaromatics. Wow. In groundwater, a compound often found in explosives like landmines. Carbon nanotubes within the plant leaves emit a signal. The signal can then be picked up by infrared camera, sending an email to alert scientists. Plants are very good analytical chemists. They have an extensive root network in the soil, constantly sampling groundwater, and have a way of self-power to self-power the transport of water up to the leaves. Professor Michael Strano, who led the research, explained to the outlet, "This is a novel demonstration of how we could overcome the plant-human communication barrier," which is interesting. Initially, the research was conducted to understand whether wild-type plants could be bioengineered to detect explosive materials. However, scientists now believe that the nanotech could be stretched further afield whilst still remaining in the field to engineer plants to warn researchers about pollution and other potential environmental issues. The experiment findings were published in 2016, but the research resurfaced in headlines, sparking interest among social media users who immediately got the topic trending on Twitter. That's pretty neat. That's sort of, we're entering almost Star Trek levels of stuff at this point. That's I don't know what to really say about that. That's just, I can see the applications for it. But is that really what you want to be doing with your time? Anyway, now our next story from the New York Times, excuse me, the NewYorkTimes.com. 6 arrested after briefly altering the Hollywood sign. The stunt had nothing to do with breast cancer awareness, as some reports suggested. One organizer said it was intended to protest the suspension of her Instagram account. Somebody changed the W in Hollywood and the D to make it look like bees, so that it was Holly Boob. A Los Angeles woman and 5 friends carried out an elaborate stunt on Monday afternoon to transform the fabled sign overlooking Hollywood. For about an hour, it didn't say Hollywood, it said Holly Boob. Julia Rose, a 27-year-old organizer, and 5 others were arrested after the prank, she said. In broad daylight, they draped a blue tarp with a white letter B over the sign's W and added the line to the middle of the D. By the time the friends had made their way back down the steep hill that afternoon, the police were waiting for them with handcuffs. It was the group's third attempt to transform the sign. Oh, God. One of the friends, Jack Tenney, 26-year-old former professional surfer, said the main goal was to make people laugh. I'm just happy to pull off a good stunt where nobody got hurt. Everyone thinks it's funny and a harmless prank. Oh, God, man, these guys are dumb. The police, however, were less amused. Los Angeles landmarks are precious to those of us, and this was way uncool. Not to mention the terrain is quite steep and dangerous. Captain Steve Laurie of the Los Angeles Police Department tweeted, Hollywood patrol officers have arrested the 6 individuals. Ms. Rose, who runs a digital magazine that features nude photos, said she wanted publicity to draw attention to a dispute with Instagram, which she said had suspended her account. Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, prohibits nudity on its platform except in select circumstances, such as photos of paintings or sculptures, or photos of women breastfeeding, because it's a natural whatever, stuff that's protected by bylaws and all that sort of stuff. We don't allow nudity on Instagram, and we removed the accounts for repeatedly breaking those rules. She said, Facebook said in a statement referring to Ms. Rose's personal and business accounts. It was widely reported the group was trying to call attention to the cause of breast cancer awareness, though it was not clear where that story started. I love that, but the whole basis of the stunt was not supposed to be around breast cancer awareness, Ms. Rose said. So basically, she just did it for attention, and now it was co-opted for a good cause, but she's trying to sort of claim that. The 6 were charged with misdemeanor trespassing and are scheduled to appear in court in June. There was no damage, and the changes to the signs were quickly undone. They spent 6 hours in jail, Ms. Rose said. Ms. Rose said the team took inspiration from previous Hollywood sign pranks. On January 1st, 2017, a 30-year-old artist was charged with misdemeanor trespassing after he changed the sign to read Hollyweed. In an interview with Zachary Cole Fernandez, said he considered the results more of an art installation than a prank. The stunt was a nod to another one on January 1st, 1976, when Daniel N. Finegood altered the letters in the same way. The planning took a few hundred hours, Mr. Tenney said, using 20 bottles of spray paint. They spray painted the blue tarp in a friend's garage in Hollywood and were ready to go. Why did they choose this particular alteration? Sex sells. And it's a prominent place in Hollywood, Miss Rose said. Call it what it is, Holly boob. I get it, but this is a case of somebody living in their own world and not realizing that there's ramifications beyond that. This was a dumb move. I don't think that this was something that it's going to get the same kind of attention it used to now, back in the 90s or even years ago. It's just dumb, and that city's been through enough with the wildfires and all this crazy stuff happening. It's not worth the trouble of doing that. So I give him a slap on the wrist. It's not something that you should go to jail for. You should be given a fine, maybe shut down that stupid magazine that she's running, that she's trying to fight for, that nobody cares about, to be honest. So that's all I really have to say on that. It's kind of funny, but kind of like, meh. Now, I'm just trying to see if we have one final story I can pull up here. Let's see here. Pokemon Go outing. Nah. Let's see here. Is there anything funny? No, there's not a whole lot of... Jamaica faces marijuana shortage as farmers struggle. That's funny, but not necessarily on. Okay, maybe we'll do this one. So, let's pull this up here from ABC News. Angry maskless man denied food service, returns with gun to steal fried chicken and waffles. Oh boy. A man who was denied service for not wearing a mask at a fried chicken restaurant allegedly returned with a gun and held up the kitchen before robbing them of fried chicken and waffles. The incident occurred at approximately 5:37 p.m. at Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles in Pasadena, California. It said that according to police and restaurant officials, the suspect initially walked in to order food, was denied service by the staff because he was not wearing a mask. Employees informed him that he could return to get the food once he was wearing one, which is standard pretty much anywhere in the world right now. The man then left the restaurant and did indeed return, but this time he showed up at the back of the establishment with a gun. He comes straight towards me with a gun, pointing at me and saying, "Put all the chicken in the bag." The cook, Robert Gonzalez, who was working in the kitchen when the suspect walked in, told KABC in an interview after the incident. Manager Angela Preto said he didn't take or demand any cash from the restaurant, only chicken and waffles. He didn't take any cash. He actually took chicken before he walked out the door, and he took syrup for his chicken. They were feeling scared, especially my cashier. She was very, very scared. And when I first talked to her, she was basically hysterical. But after a while, calmed down and started laughing about it because she realized all he did was take chicken and didn't want anything else. In an ironic twist, surveillance cameras were able to capture images of the man's face due to the fact he was not wearing a mask. According to the Los Angeles Times, the suspect is described as a black male in his 30s or 40s with a thin build, curly black hair, hazel eyes, tattoos on his neck and face. He was last seen wearing a green sweater and white sweatpants with black polka dots. His companion was described as a Latino man with a shaved head, standing between 5'4" and 5'5", weighing about 150 pounds. Nobody was injured in the incident, but the man who robbed the establishment is still at large. I almost got shot over stupidity, I guess, said Gonzalez. Oh my God. Like, talk about COVID making people do crazy things. I guess technically, you rob the place of chicken, you're going to get a charge with robbing a place at gunpoint. So that's a charge already. But you won't necessarily get, like, you're not stealing thousands of dollars, right? You're still going to get jail time. Hope it was worth it. That's all I can say. So that's going to do it for our weird news this week. We're going to come back after my review of Werewolf, the new game from Nacon on the PlayStation 5, and then we'll sort of close out the show and see what's coming up on the site for this coming week. So without further ado, here is my review of the new Werewolf game.
Do you have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Hold that thought. It's crapper time.
Okay, it is time to talk about Werewolf the Apocalypse. Specifically, Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. I received a PlayStation 5 review code from Nacon for this. This was, I think, originally going to be published by somebody else, and then Nacon absorbed the dev studio for this, and yada, yada, yada. So we have what was primarily a peripheral company publishing games that's publishing some pretty cool stuff now, especially these European titles. Now, my background with Werewolf is I somewhere on my shelf have a copy of Werewolf. I think Birdman gave me a copy because he had 2 or 3 copies of that, the 90s edition of the book. I know he said it was his favorite, and he's actually working through the game now that it's released at retail. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go into this fresh. I'm not expecting anything. I got it early to review. Let's check it out. And I can say that playing it, it doesn't include, as far as I could tell, there's going to be patches that come out after. It doesn't have like special things for the adaptive triggers or anything like that. What you're getting with the PS5 version versus the PlayStation 4 is 4K 60 with super fast load times. So no frame rate dips, native 4K, no resolution scaling. It just is the whole time. and that makes it well worth it in my books, because the loading times are super fast. Again, another game that's, sub 20 gigs, even less than that. We're looking at, again, around 10 or so, I think, which is amazing, the amount of game you end up getting out of here for the quality of the graphics and all of the gameplay. When I thought the game was going to be over, I found out I was only 2/3 of the way through, and I was like, whoa. So I have seen some, as I was playing, I wanted to 100% it and do more stuff. Like, I know that there's been some mixed talk on this. People are like, no, it's a good game. It's a very good game. It's one of the best ones I've played in months. I really enjoyed my time with it. So the basic plot is, without having to go into too much of the lore of the RPG, which, by the way, I'm going to start reading and maybe playing more, is you are a werewolf descended from one of the clans from Ireland, I believe, and you're trying to take on, you're like an eco-terrorist taking on an evil corporation that's actually working with the Worm, which is an out-of-balance deity-type mystical creature that was supposed to be working in balance to keep the world working. Well, it's gone a little crazy, and it's bringing about destruction. So you're trying to take down this oil company, and then there's some stuff with the vampires and stuff in the background that's sort of hinted at that you don't see, that are part of the larger world of darkness, I guess, as a whole. So the gameplay loop is, you start out, you'll talk to people in your home base camp, get some dialogue trees a la Mass Effect. Nothing too deep, but the more articles and secret notes and stuff you find that you read, it can open up new dialogue trees to read things, and that can also get you spirit points, which will then let you level up your powers. And you can find hidden spirit and little notes and things around that also will, piece together your spirit points to let you level up. So it pays to explore. Then you go on a mission, which will be infiltrating something to do with one of the evil corporations. And when you go in, you have sort of an infiltration mode where you're sneaking around, avoiding people, turning off cameras or setting traps for people. And then when you get spotted, in some cases you can skip a room entirely by by stealthing, but some areas you have to fight. You get spotted, you turn into a werewolf, and then you eat people. You just tear them apart. It's bloody, and there's just goo flying everywhere, and you have crazy different ways that when they die, you have finishing moves that you can do. There's heavy attacks, weak attacks, power attacks. Then you can get fury, level up, and just tear things apart even more. Pretty varied amount of enemies to deal with, especially later on in the game. Well put together design of each level. It breezes by fairly quickly. Depending on the difficulty setting you play at, it can be super challenging or super easy, where it's just like, mash a button to win if that's what you really want to do. So it does, I would say, scale to the easier side on every difficulty, which in my books is perfectly fine. The music in the game is fantastic. There's atmospheric, sort of standard, what you'd expect from an action game, and then there's heavy metal music, licensed songs that are just get your blood pumping. Think like Doom style music, but you're a werewolf tearing things apart. Visually, it's somewhere in between. It's weird. It's like, what if somebody took PS3 graphics for like what was a AAA title day one 2006 2000 PS3, and then took those textures and graphics and then blew them up to 4K while maintaining crispness. So it's like, what would a BioWare have done in 2006? And then you blow that up now. I'm like, I'm perfectly fine with that. It's not a super high budget game, but overall the voice acting is competent. The graphics are nice, especially the effects when you're blowing things up or tearing things apart. And then after you beat a level, you'll fight a boss, tear them apart, repeat the story, move on to the next task as you're slowly trying to tear down this business. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of lore and story mysticism to it. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I think I put in trying to explore everything and find absolutely everything somewhere in the realm of 12 to 14 hours. You could probably do it in less. I've seen people say 7. That would be rushing through without, taking the time to talk to anybody or learn anything or read or try to find some of the secrets and hidden areas and do the side missions. Your side missions are all attached to the home bases that you do between levels, and it's usually things like clearing out more areas, talking to more people, sending spirits off to the afterlife. Each one seems meaningful. Nothing seems to overcomplicate things or be tedious or boring. The game is extremely focused. It knows what it wants to do. It does it. It doesn't meander. There's no open world crazy mechanics to it. It's just what you would have figured. It's like a PS2 game brought into the modern day, if that makes any sense. And I'm perfectly happy with that because too many RPGs are way too long. It's a little light on the RPG elements, but they are there. And I really hope that they make more sequels to this. And because of the length of the game, I feel like it's something you could have every year or every other year. You could make another game or an expansion to this, and it would satisfy. It's retailing, at least in Canada, at cheaper than, it's not like a $90 game. It's retailing, I think, at $60. So you're getting your money's worth out of it. Especially for the soundtrack and music alone in it. I know Birdman will probably give his thoughts when he's back, finish the game himself and just sort of talk on the main show about it. But it's one of my best sleeper hits, underrated hits, if you want to call it, of the year so far, even though we're very early in. I think it's one that might surprise you.
Those magnificent bastards! Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. So what do we have coming up over the course of the week? Well, on Wednesday, we will have our is it a premiere? Is it a sample? It's more of an episode 0, a getting to know the crew introduction episode of, I guess, what is essentially, would it be season 3? I guess it's season 3 of the Cambridge Chronicles. In that season 1 was our Dungeons and Dragons campaign from a couple of years back. Season 2, we had some lost episodes that we recorded of our Shadowrun campaign. Then we had our Twitch Shadowrun campaign. That was season 2, which had a bunch of episodes and some one-off episodes we did in between. And I guess just to start as a clean slate, this is season 3 of the Cambridge Chronicles, also known as Stargate TWIG, which is going to be based on the new Stargate SG-1 official role-playing game from Wyvern Games. We've got a crew together. We sort of discuss where we're going to go with it. It's going to be interesting. It might be a bit till it starts because we have to wait till the final rules are available and the books are all sent out to everybody. COVID delayed everything a little bit, but we do have the crew together and we discuss sort of our backgrounds with it and how we got into it and what we're going to play like. That should be fun. That'll be out Wednesday at, I believe, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on Friday, we have a syndicated episode of Studio 2009 from the Geekcast Radio Network, where Birdman was the guest and discussed Star Wars: The Phantom Menace with Blanchard on there. And I guess Birdman's going to be on a few more of them as he discusses the Star Wars films. And that should be a fun little collaboration. I know it's been out on the Geekcast Radio Network, so you can check it out there already. But if not, we'll be syndicating it probably Wednesdays or Fridays after they come out over there, over on our programming here. I know that Birdman's working on a few other things, but he's still kind of ill. There was going to be a Turd or Treasure episode with some reviews on it, but since Birdman's been sick, I've been covering all the reviews here, so we won't necessarily have one of those shows right away, but there may be some stuff as some movies have come in to check out. And then, I guess, what is that? That brings us up to the weekend. I'm not sure if there's Nerd to the Third, but if there's another Nerd to the Third or Fools Who Ride or something, we'll be syndicating that over here as well. But next weekend is Valentine's Day, so I'll be hosting that probably. We'll see how that show goes. Maybe we'll set some mood music or something. But I guess as of me recording this is a few hours before the Super Game, the Super Bowl, Sports Ball, which I'm not normally interested in, but I am interested to see if they're going to premiere some movie or TV show trailers or some funny commercials throughout. So I'm going to see if I can find a stream, because I think in Canada it's on like DAZN or something, but in the States you can stream it from CBS's app. I'm sure there's going to be a YouTube stream of it. Like, it's the biggest thing of the year. I should be able to find it if I want to and maybe check that out. Other than that, I'm going to be playing... what am I going to be playing? I have Persona 5 Strikers for review, so I'm working on that and maybe a few other things that I may or may not be able to talk about, but that's going to be it for now. I'm going to get back to it. Send all your well wishes to Birdman, because he's had such a rough go of it, health-wise, ups and downs, the last, better part of a decade, and he's just like, my insides are all falling out. And so hopefully he's on the mend. He said he's feeling a little better, but that he just wasn't 100% ready to take the show, because he wasn't sure if he'd have to break through and be like, hey, I can't do it. So wish him the best. Send him pictures of kitties and all that sort of fun shit that he likes. And hopefully he feels better and he'll be back on some of our programming this week.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.